Manie, how will values make a difference in our schools?
How does values really make a difference in our schools? Now, I had the privilege to travel the country the past 2 years. And because I love young people, I'm always in the schools, in the headmaster and the principal's office. Not because I did something wrong, but I like to talk to them and hear what's happening there. I'm in the classes. I actually, sometimes I take on the clothes of the children. I sit in the classes. You won't believe me. Some of the teachers don't even know I'm there. So it's true. So I sat there. I heard what the young people said. I heard what the parents said. I heard what the teachers said. And I think with the exception of 1 or 2 schools, there's a refrain always going the same way. I'm going into a principal's office and he would say, "Sir, just tell me, how is it going in your school?" I said, "Oh," and then it's usually the brag session. So, "No, it's going wonderful in our school. Our rugby stops and we just won with a netball. And athletics is wonderful and verspoeg and everything is wonderful, wonderful going here." And then I would go and say, "Yes, it's wonderful, really. But if I put the dictaphone off now, no recordings, tell me, how is it really going with you?" And then there's a window that just opens into the headmaster's heart. He says, "You know, Manie, I'm always the headmaster. I'm always the principal. If I'm in the church, I'm the principal. If I'm in the spar, I'm the principal. Wherever I go, the teachers as well. There's nowhere where I can really just be. From the department side, there's pressure on me. From everyone." One actually told me, he said that he was a principal for a long time now. So in a few years back, when somebody did something wrong, he would call in that kid, and the kid would sit there in the office, and he would phone the parents, say, "Come." And the parents would stand behind him. And he would say, "You would listen to me, I am the principal." And the parents would say, "Yes, you listen to him." I said, well, the times have changed. Nowadays, the kid does something wrong, you call him into the office, and he sits there, and you phone the parents. And now the parents are standing behind him, and the kid says to the principal, "You will listen to me, you are the principal." That is something that changed. So many things changed in South Africa. New ways, new generation. And people don't know how to act accordingly to what is happening with the situation and the times in our country. Well, we have some statistics, and it's from America, from 2000. Now you would say, why do we need American statistics from 2000? What's happening there? Well, everything happens in America first. Where was the first aliens? Precisely. And we found that with globalization, the trend is that everything that happened about 10 years back is happening in the world nowadays. Let's have some statistics from America. 71% of all high school students admitted that they cheated in the exam in the year in which the research was done. 71. That means that 29% actually wrote the exam. 92% lied to their parents during that year. 40% of the boys and 30% of the girls admitted to having shoplifted and stolen from a store. Well, obviously that is not South African statistics. About 16% had attended school drunk. 68% had hit someone because they were angry. And here we haven't even started to touch the pornography on cell phones. Bullying in the cyberspace, everything that's happening. The times have changed so much. And there are some problems that we are facing that we did not have a few years back. Now, I'm a guy that likes some definitions to some things. You are educators and you sit in the system. Let's see the definition of education. Education is the deliberate formation of a child's thinking, choices, actions, habits, and character on the road to self-controlled maturity, to help them become fully human in hulle hele mens wees. Just to discipline a person, to change their conduct, sodat hulle gedrag kan verander. Discipline that focuses only on behavior may lead to good conduct, circus kids, but cannot produce character and self-controlled maturity. Now, I love pictures. And this is one that I got once, and a friend of mine, me and Yaku, were with each other in university as well. He used to talk a lot, and I used to put sense into that. But what happened there is that a friend of ours went for parachute. I don't know, who of you have ever parachuted out of an airplane? No one. One. It's wonderful. The rest, you sissies, eh? Many other. But he was telling us, they say that if at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. Okay. Well, a friend of us actually went for this skydiving, and he told us everything that he experienced. He said that he went for the course, and they put on that parachute on his back. And they were standing there training and telling him, okay, you do this, and then you jump out, and then 4, 5, and you pull the string, and then the parachute will open. And he says everything, the training was wonderful, he says. And then he said that they put him in the airplane with the other friends that went with him. And there they went, into the air. He said, what a thrill, standing there with his goggles and the parachute in his back. He said, it's just, you know, everything's going well and it's wonderful. And they opened the door. He says, it's just wind in his hair. And he's standing there and they said, okay, fine. And you, yes, yes. Out of the airplane. He says, and you're literally falling. He said, and he went, okay, 4, 5. He said, that canopy opened above him. The parachute was in full blast, and he said he just drifted down back to Mother Earth. And he landed, he said, Manie, it's a wonderful experience. It's wonderful. He said, hoendervleis. As Kentucky jou sien, is dit 'n Colonel burger. Jy weet, dis hoendervleis oralste waar jy gaan. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, while he was talking, I was listening, and I said to him, Bernie, it's wonderful. I really, it's nice to have you here. But tell me, who packed your parachute? I said, what do you mean? I said, I mean, who packed your parachute? You went up from that distance and you jumped out into the abyss, trusting someone you've never met in the hope that he did it right. What if he did something wrong? You know, who packed your parachute? And that's a question that's actually very, very relevant to this generation. Because I remember when I was in matric, I went there and the exam was finished, and I thought to myself, now I'm going out of this wonderful, safe school airplane. I'm going to jump into life. And I'm working with young people. I see them jumping out into life and falling themselves to pieces on the reality of the situation and the times that we are living in. Because what are we producing? We are clapping hands in the end and say, oh man, you were the best rugby player here, and you were the first one with the academics. Wonderful, wonderful. There you go. I'm sitting with a lot of young people from the rugby, and I love rugby. It's not against that. But something happens to their knee or to a shin, or they break a leg or something, and they tell me, Manie, what now? My life is over. But the reason is that the rugby was your life. And you did not realize that just to do something right is not equipping you for life. Who are we sending into the world? People who did something good with a star? Or teenagers ready for life? That is what we want to produce. Think in your own life. Who was the people who packed your parachute that made you ready for life. I remember there was a lady in my grade 7 when I was still little, ou Tannie Blommetjie. Sy was daai jaar al tussen 80 en biltong, so she's just very old. But what she did is she gave me a Bible with a scripture in, and that changed and transformed my life. She built into my parachute. She packed my parachute. Now, she never had a seminar that she gave. She never wrote a book. She wasn't a dynamic speaker. She spoke to more than 5 people. She would just sit there because she was so shy, introvert. But she packed my parachute. And you know, we as educators and people working with young people have this opportunity to build into their lives, helping them to become mature so that they can really be there, ready for life, strong and steadfast. Now, what we did is we actually gave out a few forms into schools asking young people if they, oh please, just SMS. We love questions, we really do. But what we did there, we asked them if they can ask teachers to pack their parachute, what would be the elements and the things they want in such a parachute for the teenagers? And it's interesting, the statistics that we got back. What do teenagers think teachers should pack into their parachutes? You want to hear this? It's actually quite interesting from our young people in the country. They must help us grow. Faith. They must be honest. They must care for us. Respect. They must help us understand. They must build us up. They must have grace with us. Talk straight, but with authority. Good manners. And this was quite interesting. Discipline. Now, this wasn't the cream of the crop that we just asked. We went to the naughty guys as well, the guys giving trouble. And that was actually the guys that said, we want discipline. And we asked them, I told them, tell me, why do you want discipline? He said, Manie, don't tell anybody. Sorry to him. He said, but when there's discipline, when there's rules, I feel safe. Now, I'm a youth pastor, so in Gauteng, there in Pretoria and Johannesburg, I literally, some evenings, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, I'm in my car going to clubs and collecting young children and bringing them back to teenagers. And I ask them, what are you doing this time of night here? Why are you here? What does your mother say? They tell me my mother just doesn't care. She said I can do whatever I want. And you know what? Now they do whatever they want just to get something from their mother, just to get acceptance, see me for who I am. Now, many of you sit here and think, oh, my mother said that I must be home at 10 o'clock. Oh. And then 10:05, you walk into the house and your mother stands there. So, 10, you're lying there in bed, WhatsApping your friends and saying, oh, I have the most terrible mother, she's always on my case. But you know what? There was actually someone there at 10 o'clock who cared enough to stand there and wait for you. The moment that people stop talking to you and giving something from their hearts to you is the moment that they gave up on you. Remember that there's a lot of people that still cares about us. Something also that we found, this actually, it's a home run for me. Please do not give up on young people who have already given up on themselves. Believe in our talents. Help us with our dreams, family, integrity, forgiveness, loyalty, fun. One actually wrote and said that When he jumps out of that plane at the end of the year, he wants all the teachers' names to be written on a piece of paper when he pulls that string, that all the names can flatter there in front of him and he can remember who built into his life. You see what, from the research that we got back, everything that we heard, it wasn't help me become an engineer or a doctor or this. Everything was about values. Young people asks for values. We need that. That's important. Well, we asked him also, what don't you want into your parachutes? And that was actually very, very interesting. What teenagers don't want from teachers in their parachutes. Listen to this one. Sure. A teacher said to a boy that he's a waste of oxygen. Well, I can imagine that sometimes you feel like that. But you know, somehow this young person thought that this was worthy writing down because it hit a home run for him as well. It was instilled in him. He said, well, this is what it's about. Teachers don't understand. Respect is give it to get it. Listen to this one. Bad moods affect us. They must follow the rules set for them as well. One teacher said, shut up, you will never be able to succeed, you're stupid. And this is a young person saying this, but you know, young people are like wet cement. Where you touch them, that marks will sit forever. This one actually also made me think. Only if they have a career, only if they like children, should they have a career in teaching. What is this young person saying? He said, remember why you are doing what you are doing. If you are a teacher and you're sitting here because of the financial wonderful implication that's there, I have good and bad news for you today. We are not here because of the financial things that we can get from this. There's something that happens to educators when that young people understand something. When there's a spark going into their eyes and you see that shining light, I understand. Something happens to you. Remember your calling. Remember why you did this in the first instance. Stop saying you're a Christian and you're not. Young people see plastic. Don't call me useless. Discipline us. Don't just warn us the whole time. And this one actually is also it's something that stirred my heart. Please just know my name. Please just know my name. See, young people want to sit there and say, just see me, I'm here. Young people grow when they are planted into fertile soil. Now look at that. Oh, but you've grown. That picture, and there the little tree standing there with worms and nothing happened. It's a bonsai. You see, but that's how we see young people. All this bulla there in the first team. Ooh-ah. They can frown you to death with all their muscles, you know. Man, but you've grown. Look how big you are. And we are instilling into the young people that they've grown because they are big. But what about their emotions? What about their spirit? Are they really ready for life? Or are we just clapping hands because they did something right? And that's something that we need to consider also. Imploring on you to help them to grow in their whole humanity. About that. Fertile soil. Children grow healthily when they are planted into fertile soil. The fertilizer for the soil is healthy norms and values. These norms and values must be part and parcel of day-to-day life. Thus, the entire school community should endorse and live these norms and values. The teachers, the principal, the students, the parents, people working in the garden, everybody should take on these values and do that. Now, what is values? I'm so glad you asked that question. Values is a priority position that we allocate to people and things in our lives as we learn how much time, money, and energy each one is worth. I can easily know what is the most important thing in your life in 2 minutes. I will just ask you, where do you spend most of your time? On what do you spend your time? Where do you spend your money? And where do you spend your energy? And I will know what is the most important thing in your life. Is it your work? Is it your family, your friends, church, yourself? And just on that point, when last, as an educator, did you spend some time with yourself? I remember I was there with a teacher and I asked her, "How are you today?" She said, "Sure, I don't know. But I can tell you everybody else's problems. I know how they are." Spend time with yourself. Who knows the book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People of Stephen R. Covey? So 1 or 2 of you. That he has principles, habits of highly effective people. And one of the habits, the 7th habit, is the habit of sharpening the saw, om die saag skerp te maak. Now he says that it's from a story that he once heard. This person that was walking in the forest, and when he went there, he saw a person trying to cut down a tree, sawing there, and he was sweating the whole time. And when he came a little bit nearer, he saw that the saw was blunt. He said, "Oh, it needs some sharpening." And he said, "Excuse me, sir, why don't you just take a second or a minute and just take out the saw, just sit and sharpen it, and then you can proceed, and then it will go much quicker." And the person looked at him and said, "Sir, you don't understand. I don't have time. I am busy cutting down the tree." And that is what we're also doing. We are so busy maintaining and going on with the process and everything that must be there that we forget the most crucial part, you. One principal told me, "I'd rather burn out than rust out." Well, it's true. But if you are burned out, who will be there to rust out? And it's easy to know if you are burned out. Things that is usually your passion and that you love become a burden. You know that's a signal to say, "Whoa, a little time out, take a weekend off." The problems will still be there Monday, I can promise you. Some of them will be a little bit more, but it will still be there. Just take a little bit of time for yourself as well. Resilience. To bounce back. There's a concern that young people do not know what to do when life hits them. How to bounce back. When they're still babies and toddlers, values and norms it's instilled in them in the house. Mother and father's norms and values, they are taught there. Then when you go to primary school, you will see that the roots go through and it starts to get water from other places. From the school, from the church, the house, the media. But in the teenager phase, it's a whole different ball game. There you have chat rooms and school and sport and music and dacha and gaga and everything that you have there. And if the values wasn't there instilled in the young people from the beginning, they will just float wherever the group takes them. If the group feels that this is normal and it is nice, then that will be the norm of the young people. Look at the next quote. Patricia Hirsch said the following: "Whatever behavior is common to a group of kids feels normal to them, whether it be doing drugs or doing homework. The family is not a powerful predictor of adolescent choices." The family is not a powerful predictor anymore. What the group of young people feels is the vibe, the norm, that is normal to them. Does values really make a difference, is the big question. I want to tell you the story about this boy, Wilfred Kriel, from Nieuwoud Primary School. Now, Wilfred, the story is that he was murdered. And why it is relevant to our situation here today is that his murderers was 8 and 12 years old. When we were in Rustenburg, one of the teachers came to us and said, we were on the staff of that school when it happened. They actually murdered him because he owed them 50 cents. They took an axe and they just hit him to pulp, letting him lie there. Can you imagine what happened in that community, in the school, when that happened? It's terrible. So yeah, in that time, the teachers went through processes of healing and understanding. That young people went through that. And in that time, a friend of mine, she actually helped the school go through a process of installing values in the school. And what they did there is that the specific time, a year after all this happened, this terrible ordeal, they had the value of caring, om te gee. And they thought that they should have a commemorative service for little Wilfred. They said, well, we're going to think about what happened a year after that. And everybody was dressed in red because red was the color that they allocated to caring. And the pamphlet was red and everything was there and caring. And what's the values of caring? Is deernis and empathie, goedhartig, it's full of love, it's friendly, thankful, and we forgive others. Ons vergewe ander. And who do we need to forgive? We need to forgive our wonderful and loved friend, Wilfred's murderers. All said and done. A week later, the mother of the youngest murderer phoned the school principal and said, sir, I know this is going to be a very awkward situation, but he went through all the processes of rehabilitation and he's been through everything, and the people from the welfare said that it will be wonderful if he can be part of a normal system again. And I would like to ask you if he may come back to the school. Now, a week prior to that, we just told everybody we must forgive and care. And now you must put your money where your mouth is. He immediately got his personnel and the body and everybody there and they thought to themselves and said, well, fine, we're going to do this. We're going to bring him back. A few months later, the whole town had a procession for values. Even the police were in the front, going there for values. And that friend of mine was invited back, and she was part of this. And she just asked little children, what did you learn here? And what do you understand of this and then? And she asked the little boy, why are you walking here? He said, oh, we are here for caring, and I believe that you should not hurt people and that you should love people and go and really just install in their lives. It's wonderful. And the lady from the welfare just called her aside and said, do you know to whom did you speak now? She said, that was Wilfred's little murderer, walking in a procession for values. The short version is that little boy is now a leader in the school, teaching other young persons how to make a difference. That you do not live from what happened in the past, but from what happens in the future. You learn from there, but it does not determine who you are. Just quickly want to show you this as well. It's from the newspapers. Frisbil in nommer 2 try. Seun wat op 8 gemoor het, blink nou uit as rugby speler. Boy that murdered on the age of 8 is now a rugby player. Does values really make a difference? I can't imagine that people would ask that question. Because values turns murderers into leaders who understand what it is to care. Robert Schuller said the following: any fool knows how many seeds there are in one apple, but only God knows how many apples there are in one seed. We have the opportunity to pack that seeds into their parachutes, and it will make a difference. Thank you very much.